All right, folks, welcome back to From the Armory with Murph and Lassiter. It's a 3-1 Association podcast production. Today, our guest is Benny the Leprechaun Connor. He runs the Wellness for Vets podcast. He is a 20-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps. 10 of those years were spent as an infantryman. The other 10 years, I definitely did not know him. He was not infantry, but he did multiple things that supported the infantry, much like the rest of the Marine Corps. He has multiple overseas deployments, including combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq with the Maritime Special Purpose Force. Where I really knew him, and Johnny really knew him, was around November 2004, the Second Battle of Fallujah, where he was a squad leader of second team. Is that correct?
Second team. He'll correct us.
Yeah, he'll correct us. So we'll get him on. He'll correct anything I've screwed up, which is probably going to be a long list of corrections.
We can give him something to talk about.
If you have read the book We Were One by Patrick K. O'Donnell, he was definitely highlighted in there. 2006, he went on to the Marine Corps Special Operations School, where he was an instructor. He's done European African theater instructor operations for 9+ years, and currently he is in Ireland. That's as much of a location as I'm willing to give him. And he's an International Sports Science Association certified fitness trainer and a whole other list of fitness trainers. Like, this guy makes me look lazy as hell. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to him. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey Benny, welcome to the podcast. This is Johnny, and I got Corey, or otherwise known as the artist, formerly known as Corey. We call him the Murph. Go ahead and power up your camera and join us for a few, buddy.
All right.
Cool.
What's up, guys?
Hey, brother.
First question I got you, or two questions, is one, how you doing? And second, what you drinking?
Well, I'm doing great. Now, Murph mentioned I was in Ireland, so I imagine people would be thinking that I'm just sitting around drinking Guinness. But for tonight, I went with something special, Guinness.
You changed it up a bit.
But also, what I wanted to highlight real quickly is some of the fine spirits that they have over here. Now, the first two bottles I'm going to show you are empty. This one here is Giveback's Irish whiskey. It's probably one of my favorites. This bottle didn't last very long.
So you broke that one on the way over.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of gin, and they have some really good gin over here. This one, when it was full, was infused with Atlantic salt water and botanicals from the beach.
Oh.
But what I'll be having tonight is some West Cork single malt Irish whiskey. I went with this one because I never had it, and I'm in Limerick, and West Cork is right next door to me, so I figured, hey, it's a special occasion, let's try something new. So, sláinte.
Yeah, slash it.
Funny word.
It's, was that to your health?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
It's a cheers.
yeah, basically, yeah.
So, I know we talked a little bit earlier, like off camera before we started recording. Hey, just a lot of people just, we follow you on Facebook. You're a great storyteller. Follow your podcast, Wellness for Vets. Once again, a great media. Tell us what you've been up to since, not a majority, but any, Lima Company Marines had, wondered whatever happened to Sergeant Connor after he fell off the continent. So,
Yeah.
So bring us up to speed. Where are you at?
And how'd you get there?
I'll try to make the long story short.
Yeah.
Because it goes in all 10 million different directions. But basically, I'm in Limerick, Ireland. I'm studying at the University of Limerick. I was stationed in Germany for a couple of years, and then I retired out of North Carolina, and then I took a job that I love the people that I worked with, but I hated my job, and basically I just was kind of reinventing myself, and I got really into health and fitness, and saw the potential to help other people reclaim their health. Really a lot of it had to do with the mental health of our troops. And I said, well, I want to go back to school, and a lot of the research that I was reading was coming out of the sports world, whether it was nutrition or exercise, and it's the mental and physical adaptations of the body. I said, well, I'm going to look for a sports science program, and while I'm at it, I'm going to try to get back to the European continent. I looked around for a couple schools, English speaking. Why wouldn't I come to Limerick when my call sign was Leprechaun and my nickname is Seamus? So I applied to UL. The short version is I got accepted. It actually took me a little while to get here, and we can get into that. But so that's kind of where I've been. You know, I hung out in Romania for a year before coming to Ireland, and now I'm in Ireland.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We're talking about the mental health and the physical fitness. You know, a lot of us are, you know, even after we get out of the Marines, we're into that type of lifestyle. But can you tell us something that we don't know, other than, you know, running or, you know, meditating or something like that, or drinking a ginseng tea? Do you have anything or any advice for any of our Marine listeners dealing with whatever stressors or anything like that would help them, you know, as a coping mechanism that they wouldn't already know?
Well, let me start out with saying, when I went on this journey myself, I had gained a lot of weight. It was the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I was eating a lot of cheesesteaks, a lot of buffalo wings, and just enjoying the moment. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm fucking fat. How did I get like this? So I wanted to lose weight. I got introduced to a certain eating style, and I was like, well, I feel pretty good. Like I said, I hated my job, so I was hiding out in the gym a lot. And I started doing my own routine, you know, and then I realized the training I was doing in the Marine Corps was not really healthy. I mean, it's what we always did, and we wondered why we come out broken and with bad backs and knees and stuff. So I started figuring out, okay, exercise is making me feel good, changing up my diet's making me feel good. What else can I do? So I started digging, and then I started to learn how different foods impact the brain. For example, and I'm going to try not to get too into the sciencey stuff, but if you're unable to absorb vitamin B or various forms of vitamin B, it will impact your mental status because you can't produce all the chemicals that make you feel good in the brain. So there's that. And then once I got to university, so I started fooling around with nutrition. That really became my passion, was just manipulating my food to get the best results for me. And it just so happened that one of my best friends had been diagnosed with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and this, that. And of course he got put on a medication cocktail that turned him into a complete train wreck. So between watching that and doing my own thing, and then having other people asking me for exercise and nutrition advice, I was like, well, this might be a career path that is worth exploring. So that's what I did. In that process, I'll fast forward a little bit because I have yet to answer your question.
We're just letting you go, bro.
I started to explore with different things. Once I got to Eastern Europe and Romania, the exchange rate was great, so my dollar went very far, and I was able to experiment with a lot of things that are something as simple as a massage, which might cost, not everybody has $60 to throw away on a massage in the States. Over in Romania, it cost me about the equivalent of $6. So I was getting massages all the time. I did some leech therapy. So basically, then it was, my girlfriend told me, she's like, look, you're such a good communicator. You could take all this sciencey stuff and put it into a package that your people can understand. My people being our people, the
knuckle draggers,
community.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And that's how the website was born. But I didn't want it to be just like a health and fitness thing or, a biohacking thing. Like, I wanted it to be very specific to active duty, veterans, firefighters, police officers, paramedics, all these guys who deal with a lot of physical and mental stress on a daily basis. Out of that was born the podcast. So I started looking for people to interview. What can I do? I started off with a couple friends just trying to get my feet wet. Then I got a couple university researchers. Then I got, Johnny, I know it was one of your favorites, was this guy, Lecky Harrison, out in,
Oh, yeah.
the hell is he, Oregon or Washington, talking about trauma release exercise. So through this whole journey, some of the things that I found out was some uses for technology, like neurofeedback. There's a machine called the Apollo, which basically sends pulses into your body and kind of recalibrates fooling around with different body ways like acupuncture, dealing with meridians and energy. Then there's this TRE, trauma release exercise, which basically you induce physical tremors in your body as a way to release stored up trauma. So for example, if you guys remember in boot camp or maybe School of Infantry or something, getting put in the electric chair as a punishment, that's actually one of the exercises in TRE. Because what happens is, it was based off of this doctor who was watching wild animals, and he noticed, we all heard about the fight or flight, right? We actually learned about that in the Marine Corps at some point, or whatever branch of service you're in, at some point or another. But what he noticed was, once an animal feels like it has escaped its threat, it has all this juice flowing, and it needs a way to calm down, so it'll just kind of lay down and start shaking, and then it eventually gets itself back to normal. Mm-hmm. So he started using that on people with trauma. You get into these, you purposely induce tremors through exercise, and then you just lay there and allow your body to shake it out of you. So instead of holding it in, it's a way of release.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah, I did get a chance to listen. It was actually on your podcast that individual out of Oregon. I was able to check it out, and I just thought I made a bunch of notes, and I thought it was interesting. But I could never put myself in a scenario or a mindset, a mental mindset, to actually induce a tremor, because I wanted to test the theory. And I'm real curious about that. And you don't really have to talk about it too much if you want to expound upon it.
Well, I'll tell you this much, man, and this is why I like when we're setting this thing up, and you guys are like, hey, man, feel free to free gun it, because something very interesting happened to me today, and I'll roll it back to your question. You mentioned not being able to really get in the mindset to do that. The thing is, there really is no mindset to it. Like, you don't have to be in a traumatic place. Like, I mean, you could, if you go to the gym, or maybe like you guys like to do your go rucks and whatnot, you could do it after that, because you actually have induced stress in your body. It's a good stress, but stress is stress. And me and the guy were talking, it's like, well, a lot of firefighters in the firehouse, they have weights. So why can't they just come back from, say, a call, or, maybe cleaning up some dead kids or whatever? Why can't they just hit the weights and get a release that way? And he's like, you know what? That's perfectly good, because what happens is you're burning off, you're using that energy, but it's not necessarily a release, because once you're done lifting weights, you're still going to be shaking. Mm-hmm. Have you ever done some serious deadlifts and you're like, you got the twitchies a little bit,
shaking so like a dog shitting a peach seed.
You still have to give that energy it's there, but it has no release. So, so getting back to mindset, yeah, you don't really need to be in a mindset to do it. You just have to want to do it. And again, this is it's induced, so you're deliberately doing it. But what happened to me today was, I'm also taking this Tai Chi course to work with veterans. And today, it's all virtual. We were doing it's called a silent flow. So the instructor never talked. So you got 20 little squares on the screen. It's a Zoom. And so you can see everybody. And we were just kind of moving, right? Mm-hmm. And doing all this stuff and this. But there was no talking whatsoever. And he deliberately picked all these ballads from the 80s. And between the music and just seeing everybody moving in sync, kind of like, that in Bill and Ted's with all the people that are in the background doing this number. Yeah. But watching that, man, it was pretty powerful. And then I told the class, I said, because I'm the youngest guy in the class, it's a bunch of old ladies and a couple old guys.
Oh, I see what you're trying to do there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Take you up a sugar mama.
Yeah. Everybody's a cougar in there.
But I told him, I said, look, I don't know if it was the music or what, but watching everybody in sync like that, really, I don't like to use the word trigger, because I don't want to make the misconception that it was like a PTSD trigger. But it was very emotional, just because it was very peaceful. And when you see everybody moving, if you ever see a video of an old stadium rock concert and everybody has their arms up, right? And it's kind of cool. And, so it was like that. So again, getting back to mindset, you never know what's going to happen. You just have to have, and we used to laugh about it in the Marine Corps, but I've been using it in the civilian world, PMA, positive mental attitude. And if you want to do something, then you got to make it happen. So there's a lot of benefits to this stuff. You just got to give it a chance to work. I mean, this is stuff that I never thought I was doing. Like when people were trying to get me to do TRE, I was like, that's stupid. Why would I? That doesn't even make any sense. I'm too strong. I'm too physically fit. Nobody's going to make me shake and then feel better about myself. And then the first time I did it, I actually started giggling like a little schoolgirl because I was actually in tune with my body, and I had never felt that before, and I didn't know how to respond to it. I just started laughing. Some people cry and have these breakdowns, but I just started laughing. And it probably sounds funny because it's like, man, this guy was like a stone cold killer, and now he's like some hippie energy healer or something. But hey, that's just the way it goes, man. I had a lot of issues that I've had to deal with over the years, and it's only gotten better as I've gotten older. I mean, the good thing is I'm in a place right now where money's not an issue. I really don't have any great worries in the world, so I'm able to experiment with all this different stuff, and it's great.
Yeah. Well,
and then, of course, I want to take my experiences and share it with other people, but it's very important that I tell people, what works for me might not work for you. I'm just sharing my experience, and maybe it's something that, somebody else would want to try out.
Yeah, well, you've always been a great storyteller, and, with that being said, it's great, because you're great at communication, you're good at conveying that information out there, and for every 10 listeners that you have, if you're reaching one, and none of them might say you're full of shit, I'm badass or so on and so forth, I'm a stone cold killer like you said. If you're reaching one, I mean that's the whole idea. So it goes back to just like suicide awareness. 22 is too much for one day. If you can reach one, then maybe if you can't reach all of them, that is horrible. But if you can reach one, then you can change the data. You can change the dynamic. You can change the end effect. Yeah, you can change the end result. So you never know who you're reaching to. I mean, because
it's been really interesting too. Because I mean, the podcast hasn't necessarily gone the direction that I wanted to go, but I've stepped up my social media presence, and it was a breakthrough when somebody told me use hashtags. I'm not I'm not a technological guy.
Dude, that's
but
amazing.
In doing that, meeting people from the Army, the Air Force, different times of service, and they reach out and say, hey man, I really like what you do. And I'm like, okay, you know what? If I got to one person, then that's the person that needed to hear what I had to say on that specific day.
good stuff. What you got?
No, I was just going to say, well, I didn't know I thought you had another question.
I'm
All
good.
right. What I thought was interesting listening to the podcast was you really didn't get serious about health and fitness until around your 30s, right? Mid 30s, late 30s?
Late 30s, yeah.
Yeah, and as I was listening, I'm like, dude, same. I've, not only because of the corona quarantine or whatever you want to call it, but I've had stuff. I've done rucking, dabbled with kettlebells, things like that. But I've picked up a lot more since we've been shut down. And I feel so much better. I've made it a priority. And I don't feel like my day is complete if I haven't hit some kind of resistance training, some kind of physical activity.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love it. And it just so happens, last year there was an American guy at my school who was doing a PhD, and he actually did a really good paper. Actually, I meant to have it ready for you. I was stuffing my face when we set up the call, but I'll get it over to you guys if you want to add it on.
Yeah,
it was a really good paper. He did what they call a systematic review. So basically they set all these parameters and review existing literature, looking for trends and things like that. And basically he did one about the direct link between physical resistance training and mental health. And it was a really fascinating piece. It was on, it got put out in Vice News. I think that was probably the largest platform that it made it to. But it was a really interesting piece. And basically what it comes down to is, when you exercise, your brain has to do certain things in order to make your muscles move. And then again, there's the release of the chemicals, there's stabilizing the body and the movement. I mean, it's just, to me, it's very fascinating stuff. I mean, as a personal trainer, the client probably doesn't want to know all that shit, but I love to know all that, and I want to be able to answer any questions or explain it if they want to know. I always give them the option, hey, if you want me to get all sciencey on you, I will. Otherwise, I'm just going to show you how to do the movement, make sure you don't get hurt. But, yeah, that feeling that you get from doing it is amazing.
So,
and there's a reason for it. I mean, it is a no shit direct physiological response. So nobody can say, oh, well, you just think it makes you feel good. No, it actually does. And then there's some people that just, they might be physically unable to do certain exercises, but there's always other things you can do. I don't like the term breathwork, but that's the category that it falls into. There's all different kinds of styles of breathing you can do. So, if you have somebody who's maybe paralyzed or something like that, there's electric muscle stimulation, which was something else I got to play with in Romania. And it was pretty cool.
well, I know like that Wim Hof is pretty popular, and he'll even be the first to say he didn't invent what he did. He just repackaged it to where more people are buying into it.
Yeah.
And so you're talking breath work like that, like it's all kind of controlling your breathing to feel a certain way or to control the rest of your body in response.
Yeah, and I mean, the stuff all works. It's just that I only have so much time in my day. I got to kind of pick and choose what it is that I want to play with. And there's some things that I just haven't gotten around to trying out. There's another one. It's like holotropic breathing, where just by doing a certain style of breathing, you pretty much induce a psychedelic trip.
Well, that kind of led me into my next question. So like you said, in regards to limited time, so much you can do, what is your kind of mix, not for everybody, but what's your personal mix of, like, do you do yoga one day, resistance training 3 days a week? I mean, how do you kind of balance what you can do with what you want to do?
Well, it sort of depends on my schedule. So, I mean, I'm a student right now. It's not like I have a job that I have to be at.
You're pissing off a lot of students by saying that.
My schedule is fairly flexible, so.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, for me, resistance training is number one.
Okay.
Like, when the gyms were closed over here during lockdown, I was going nuts. I started running a lot. Again, I kind of took a break from running for a while. I started running, but it wasn't doing the same thing. I was trying to do body weight exercise in the backyard, doing like 100 burpees, and I was like, this sucks because I'm just miserable. This isn't what I want to be doing. And everybody was sold out of weights. All the sporting goods stores, like the day before lockdown, there was a mass rush to the sporting goods stores, and I showed up to the store like a day late, and they're like, we're out of everything, and we're not getting anything back until who knows. So resistance training, and there's a lot of reasons for it that I prefer resistance training. Whether you're doing high intensity or you're training for strength or you're training for power or whatever your personal goals are, I think resistance training is number one. But then when it comes to things like yoga, Tai Chi, maybe some people's goals are totally mental and they need some inner peace or stability or something like that. So, I mean, number one, it depends on the goals, but I find a lot of those things can be achieved through resistance training. And then I wouldn't even say it's second. Number one is probably addressing issues with food. A very close number two, like kind of A to B, not the but, is nutrition and then resistance training.
Now, for issues with food, do you mean just that people tend to overeat, or our outlook and our teachings are so flawed with eating? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I just think, it's one of those things where, like, when you discover something, you think it's new, but then you start to see it everywhere, right? So, like, when you buy a new car and you're like, man, I love this car, and then you're driving around and you see that car all the time, but you never noticed it before. So a lot of the things that I started to learn and figure out, wanted to share with people, suddenly I started seeing it everywhere, and I'm like, maybe I'm the one that was fucked up and I didn't know that this information was out there. But it's not just overeating, although that is a huge problem. It's what we're eating. And understanding how food impacts our bodies. I don't like the term fad diets, because when people say fad diet, I think it has sort of a negative connotation and totally dismisses health benefits to any specific style of eating. So whether it's paleo, keto, carnivore, Mediterranean diet, or there's another one I can't think of it, but it's basically like it's basically just eating responsibly, really.
Oh, like primal or something like that.
Like a
Paleo?
moderation diet or
Yeah.
something, or anything in
No,
moderation.
it's something very simple, like responsible eating.
Oh,
like
okay.
it has a very generic name. I just
Yeah, yeah.
can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
Well, if it's
Somebody
not-
got it in the comments.
If it's not complicated, then it probably doesn't work.
Right.
So
Yeah, but like with ketogenic diet, right? A lot of people, when they talk about a ketogenic diet, they're using it for weight loss, which is, I did it and I got the results that I wanted, but full disclosure, it's not necessarily a good long-term strategy. And if you say keto, a lot of people stick their nose up and be like, well, why are you doing that? But there are a lot of other benefits to it. It's not just weight loss. I mean, for diabetics, it works good. It was developed for people who have epilepsy. So there's a lot of metabolic benefits to it, low carb diets, people are like, oh, your body needs carbs. Yes, it does to a certain extent. But if you have certain ailments, the absence of carbs might be able to help you progress towards health. Intermittent fasting is really big. People are like, oh, well, don't intermittent fast to lose weight. Again, yeah, probably not the best strategy, but it is actually very good for your body because it gives your body an opportunity to clean house on the inside, get rid of dead cells through the process of autophagy, Greek word meaning like to eat yourself or something like that.
Okay.
shit, if I could do that, I would never leave the couch all day.
But to
Munch on
get back to your
Tony.
question, what is it about food? I think it's just understanding how food, and especially in the States, processed food. We're always so busy. It's so easy to just go grab an already made meal. I still do it to this day if I'm in a hurry. Like my kids had pizza tonight because we were running around all day. I had pre-made fish and chips because I needed to eat. Not something I do all the time, but I had to do it today because I was hungry. But as long as you're aware of what you're eating, you can make better choices. And that does have long-term impacts. Like with the virus right now, right? How many people knew about zinc and vitamin D and all that? I mean, I knew it a long time ago. I didn't have anybody really to tell it to.
And now you go on Amazon and the shit's sold out, yeah.
But you never heard it come from anybody important. So just little things like that, understanding how the body works and what you need.
So I've got a silly question, and it's kind of an aside. It's not really in relation to that. But your food prep services over here, you see a lot of meals made for the week. I use one, and I don't know any of the big ones, but we've got a local one here I use. They'll cook you healthy meals, and they're prepackaged, you microwave them, whatever. Do you guys have that kind of stuff over there? Is that kind of becoming more of a thing, or is that just more of a stateside thing?
Honestly, I don't know. I know some of the ones in the States are very good. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and all the big name people advertise the same companies.
Right.
But I don't know if we have something like that over here. But I will tell you this: the quality of food in Europe is actually much better than in the U.S.
I know, I missed that. God, that was amazing.
I mean, even like a steak, the Irish actually are very much known for their beef because the cows are all grass-fed.
That's why all their
you see it in
butter's
the
big,
butter.
yeah.
The butter is that golden color because of what the cows eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious. I know it's like been more of a prevalent thing here lately, especially on Instagram and things like that. And I didn't know if that had really made the shore there yet or not.
Yeah, I don't know if meal prep's real big, but I mean, it's so easy to just go down to there's a butcher on every corner.
Right.
So it's nothing to go get some fresh chow.
Or hell, you can even go to Tesco, right? You guys got a Tesco down there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like Dunn's myself. Dunn's has the best prices, and I like their fish. I mean, some of the shrimp is farmed, which is unfortunate, but I think I'd probably have to go down to the docks to get some fresh seafood, and I'm still I'm in the Midlands. I'm considered the Midlands, so I'm not on the coast.
I live in the
It's not that
Midwest,
big,
so-
but it's still far enough that I can't walk there.
Yeah, I live in the Midwest, so for me to get fresh seafood, it's like an overnight
Right.
trip. Yeah. Johnny, you had some. I thought you were looking to ask a question, and I kept cutting you off. Sorry.
No. And real quick there, Benny. I want to swing back to your military career. I know a lot of our listeners know that you were in. You're definitely in 3-1. You mentioned Romania. I think that the question I have for you, and some for for our younger listeners is why did you join specifically the Marine Corps? Joining the military is one thing, and I'm not going to get too much into the service rivalries. Some people join different branches for different reasons. With the Marine Corps, or the Air Force or Navy or Army or even the Coast Guard, for general specific. Why did James Connor join the Marine Corps?
Hey, maybe we go this route to preface this, because I don't even know if we talked about where you were born and raised. Maybe you should go that route. Talk about your background, then lead into how you got where that.
Start at your second birthday and work up.
After your first diaper change, what happened?
Well, I'll tell you, I do love this question. I don't get to share this enough. And one of the things I just want to show you real quick is I'm drinking my whiskey out of my 2016 Marine Corps birthday ball glass. That was the last Marine Corps birthday ball that I went to. So I'm originally from Newark, Delaware. It was a college town. Delaware's not a huge state. Most people think it's a suburb of Philadelphia, and it pretty much is. But I went to school in Wilmington, Delaware. I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. I wasn't athletic. I didn't want to go to college. My dad had dreams of me taking over the family plumbing business, but I didn't want to do that either. And really, in 1994, I don't remember what it was, because I used to be like a real radical. I was like, when the Gulf War went down in 91, I was a punk teenager. I was like, no blood for oil and all this bullshit. That's just how things work.
Yeah, I was there, by the way, and I'll keep my opinion to myself. It's like when you get, not to cut you off, but when you get in country, and you've seen it before, it doesn't take you long to realize the underlying reasons to why you're at a location. So, you do what you need to do, for your brother or sister to your left or your right. But if you're, moderately intelligent, you figure out real quick to the reasonings why you're there. And we talk amongst ourselves about it, and never in a medium that where, it disparages or besmirks, if you will, the standard. So yeah, I definitely know what you're, it's not radical as it is informed and intelligent. So, and that's about as much as I'm going to go into it.
I thought, growing up, I thought Ronald Reagan was an idiot. I thought George Bush was an idiot. Because that's what was in my house. That's what I was taught. As an adult, having done behind the scenes operations in Eastern Europe, I have a totally different view of things. Having done special operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, I have a totally different view of things. But that's just sort of the way that I was brought up. Somewhere in my high school career, the Marine Corps recruiter came to the school, and they said, hey, the Marine Corps recruiter is going to be here. Well, I hated school. So I said, I'll go see I'm just going to, fuck that guy. I don't care what that dude has to say, but hey, if it's going to get me out of class for a couple hours, I'll just go hang out and listen to his bullshit. So I did. And I was like, okay. And then kind of word got around that I was going to go see the Marine recruiter. And I was like, whatever. They got my number, and after he made his pitch, and I came out of the room, people hey man, what did the guy say? What was it like? What was it like? And I got a little bit of an ego, right? I'm like, the chest was it's like, oh yes, I'm gonna be a Marine. And so I gave it some thought over the pending year, and then I made a, to use the word radical again, I made a radical shift from the old hippie kid from Newark, Delaware, to this patriotic dude, up and coming conservative warfighter or whatever. But that's not why I joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps because I thought that I was going to get paid to drink beer, get in fights, and chicks would throw themselves at us because of our uniforms. It had absolutely nothing to do with patriotism or anything like that. Those are the three reasons why I picked the Marine Corps to join. So,
and you got what you wanted,
which are true in a sense. So
I did get all that. It came with a price, but yeah,
I know you've seen the meme or the ad. Dress blues, dropping panties since 1775.
Yeah.
In a sense, for our listeners, there's a little bit of truth to that. So,
but I will add this though, and if you guys want the full unrated version, then you or your listeners are gonna have to come to Ireland, and I'll tell the story over a pint. You'll get the whole story. But I will tell you this: my journey into the Marine Corps was not an easy one, and it actually took me 2 tries. And in that time, I had to go through the recruiting process again. Yeah, I had to write the letters of the commandant. So basically, like, I kind of felt like I was getting jerked around by the Marine Corps a little bit. And one day I went in the recruiting office, and they had, like, undergone a lot of personnel changes. And I'm like, look, I don't know what's going on. I'm not getting any younger. I need to either join the Marine Corps or find a job. Do you guys want to put me in or what? And the recruiter's like, I'll tell you what, get the fuck out of my office. And I was like, shit, okay, see you later. And then, but that was like the head recruiter. That was like the NCOIC. So like the actual recruiter calls me. He's like, hey man, what happened? I was like, you know what? Fuck that guy. He's like, let me talk to him. Well, in the meantime, I gone over to the Navy recruiter. And I was like, hey, here's my story. I laid it out for him. He's like, what do you want me to do for you? And I said, can I be a SEAL? So we got to talking about that. And he says, well, what about all this? I said, well, the Marines have all my information. Well, this is what I think happened. So I went home that night. The Navy recruiter, and it's the end of the month for anybody that's ever been on recruiting duty. The Navy recruiter called the Marine recruiter and was like, hey, do you know this guy? And the Marine recruiter was like, yeah, what's up? You know, he just came in and I'm going to need his SRB or whatever files you got on him. Well, I'm at my dad's house eating dinner, the phone rings. I'm like, hello, like, man, it's that Sergeant so-and-so. Are you ready to be a Marine? I was like, what? Like, you weren't really going to join the Navy, were you? Come on, dog. I'm like, hey, man, is that all it took was me talking to somebody else? So, end of the month, they needed a body. I had to get a couple waivers. And then how I ended up in California is a whole nother story. But, yeah, so I was in, you know how they got trail in boot camp, the last platoon in the company. They call it the waiver platoon. That was the platoon I was in. And so that's how I ended up in the Marine Corps.
That's awesome.
It had nothing to do with patriotism. It was about drinking, fighting, and banging chicks.
Well, most people just say kill shit and blow stuff up, and that's how I ended up in the Marine Corps.
Well, because there's a lot of people like, you know, my dad was a Marine, my grandfather was a Marine, you know, my dad was a Marine in Vietnam. 9/11, I wanted to serve my country. Me, I'm like, I just want to get fucked up and bang chicks and maybe shoot some guns.
And you got to do all of that and more.
All that. Yep. Very cool. So, fast forward, going back toward, Romania. What were you doing? What were you doing in Romania? After 3-1, short, down and dirty about life after 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines.
Right. So when I joined the Marine Corps, I went to the recruiting office. I guess I scored high enough on the ASVAB for security forces. I don't know. And the guy's like, hey, we can get you a job, get you a little bit more money with a bonus. You got to go to school for a little longer. I'm like, look, man, the reason I'm here is because I don't want to go to school anymore. And I grabbed one of them little pamphlets off the guy's desk. The dude's got his booty covered and he's in the woods of North Carolina. And I'm like, that right there is what I want to do. And I did the 3 tags and everything, physical fitness, adventure, and leadership and all that shit. So I joined the infantry. Did a few deployments with 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, which is interesting because after 9/11, and Johnny, you'll remember this. Murph, you probably remember too, I'm not sure. But it was really unusual for somebody to do 3 deployments with 1 unit back then.
Yeah.
It was you did 2 deployments and then you took a break in a B-billet or handing out basketballs or some shit.
Yep.
So me and a couple of my friends, we were like, we want to do another deployment. So we did another deployment. And that's when the invasion of Iraq went down. Well, after we came back, I got in trouble again for raising hell. And me and the Sergeant Major didn't see eye to eye. And he's like, you're not deploying with us again. You're going somewhere else. I got stuck in regiment until I got myself squared away. And then I got to tell you this story, and then I'll get into after 3-1. So I had to go to alcohol counseling. So that's what I did. And when I was finished, the company gunny that I worked for was like, well, you satisfied your requirement. What do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I want to go back to the fleet because it's the only thing that I'm good at and I know how to do. So he's like, all right, well, let me see what I can figure out. Well, in the meantime, I was at the gym in Horno, and here comes this little guy who comes in. Hey, Devil, what's going on? Hey, Ray, what's happening, killer?
Wilson.
Oh, you're looking tough over there, guy. And I had on a Notre Dame shirt, and I'm like, who's this? This little old man, and everybody's like kissing his ass. And then I look up on the wall, and I see his picture on the wall. He's the battalion commander for 3-1, Willie Buell. And he's over there doing a bench press, and I walk up, and I'm like at parade rest in the gym. I was a sergeant at the time, and I'm like, excuse me, sir? And he's like, he sits up, he's like, hey, what's up there, fighting Irish? And I was like, I didn't know how to respond to that. And I'm like, not much, sir. I was like, are you the CO for 3-1? And he's like, yeah, what can I do for you, killer? I was like, well, I'm in sort of a position. I was like, I messed up, I paid my penance, and basically I'm looking for a job. And he's like, well, what do you mean? So I told him the story. And he's like, I'll tell you what, you go see Sergeant Major Sachs in the morning, and, you go talk to him and see what he has to say, because we can always use some leadership over there. I was like, all right. And if you guys don't remember, like 3-1 in 2004, a lot of the NCO Corps, like they didn't come through the ranks in 3-1. They came from B billets.
Yeah.
So
Well, I remember
Buell was
eighth and
like,
I guys.
Yeah.
We got a lot of exactly.
A couple of hats.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
So Colonel Buell's like, I can always use some leadership. Go see what you. So when he said Sergeant Major Sachs, I was like, oh God, because I knew Sergeant Major Sachs when he was a first sergeant, and he was a lunatic. And I was like, I don't want to go talk to that guy. I'm like, oh man, but sure. So I went to his office at that, whatever day, Friday or Monday, I was supposed to be there 15 minutes early. I'm like, he's like, what do you want? It's Sergeant Connor, Sergeant Major. I'm a little bit early. He's like, get in there, kill him. And I come in, totally different guy from when he was a first sergeant. But I get in front of him. He's like, I remember you. I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because he was in Golf Company 2-1, and that company was like, I think they were clinically insane. So he's like, hey, you've already done 3 deployments. You don't have to deploy anymore. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I kind of fucked up, and the only way to unask my career is to go deploy again. He's like, all right, you belong to me. Go check in the Lima company, and then, that part of the story's history. That's how I met you guys. So after we get back from 3-1, and Johnny, you and I talked about this, that was a really strange transition, because it was such a huge battle in Fallujah. We made history. We went down in Marine Corps lore. I mean, it's really hard to put the words what it was that we did. You can say what we accomplished, what we did, what we sacrificed, whatever adjective you want to use. Either way, it's hard to put into words. But we came back, and then it was just kind of like, poof. Everybody went to the winds.
It was exactly just like that. It was like somebody. It was like a frag grenade mentality. It was like we landed, and then everybody got with their wives or girlfriends, significant others, with their families, and then that was it. There was some we came back, and then it was just weird. It was like a weird setting. It was just.
There wasn't any big going away parties. Guys just started EASing left and right, or PCSing or whatever.
But you know what didn't help us at all? It didn't help us that we had guys that left in the middle of the deployment right before Fallujah. They separated before. We had guys taking off. We had guys that the minute they got back, they extended. So as soon as we got back, they were gone. Like that was me.
Another unit.
Yeah, at my point, that was me. I was out. I was EAS'd. We were done. And then there was guys that, like I said, as soon as they got back, they were already tapped out, gone somewhere else.
Yeah, I didn't even see Murph for after it was years before we reconnected.
No, that's not true. I came back when I separated. I came back like a few months later. Me and my brother.
Oh yeah, because
we drove back cross country.
Yeah, you swung by.
We stopped in.
You and Dylan stopped in.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But then it was like it just goes quiet, and then you and I didn't reconnect until we started talking about macros. So, which is going back to what.
And I didn't see you. Actually, I didn't see you until we got back online, and I started seeing you pop up in all this shit. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna friend request this guy. He doesn't even remember me. I'm just a dude in the window. So I just kind of blew it off. So then stuff like this is what brings us together, and that's what I think is cool. Is with the 3-1 Association, we had our reunion, and there was a lot of people, man, that couldn't have been there, and whatever we lost track of. But that was awesome to me, was to be able to meet up with people there at the Warrior Reunion Foundation.
But I'll tell you, 2 of the things that stick out in my memory the most is, number 1, one of the last times I saw Johnny, before the introduction of Facebook and all that shit, one of the last times I saw you was when you came to get my ass off of the battlefield, and I was trying to hold my weapon up with one hand and provide security, and you're like, hey man, just sit your ass down, we got you covered. So that was one time. And then the very last time I saw you was when 3-1 came back, and you and I had like wandered away from everybody. I don't know if it's because we were older than most people or what.
Old people do that. We just wander off.
Well, I was having a little bit of a hard time because, you know, I lost 4 dudes, and I was like, you know, and I was like speaking out loud. I was like, you know, was there anything else that I could have done? And I really wasn't expecting an answer. And you had just looked at me and said, hey man, we did everything we could do, and you did everything right. And I think that was the last time we spoke until recently, you know, until the advent of Facebook and we started messaging and things like that.
Yeah, I remember that, and it's just something you never know what to say, and it's just like anything else. I mean, it's just like, you know, putting together a carburetor. You do everything right, you turn the key, and for some reason the engine doesn't turn over. There's nothing, you know, like Mike Tyson used to say, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So,
right.
Or everybody has a plan until their first round goes down range. You know, but getting in it, you know, and going back, so, and then
but I don't want to bring the mood down. So
yeah.
Getting back to your original question.
No. That's a part of our
That's
heritage.
part of it, man. That's what we got to do, right?
I told you guys you'll have to reel me in because I can go down I can go down multiple rabbit holes all at one time.
Yeah.
You know what we got to do at one point? We just need to get back together in Ireland and sit around and drink and talk about this shit.
Yeah. I have a passport. We'll
Hey, 3-1.
Yep. Yeah. How about a reunion in Ireland?
We get a reunion for us 3. We'll do this in person.
But no, I mean, going back to what you said is like earlier, you know, as far as joining, you know, the military, the Marine Corps, because I spent 6 years in the Air Force, and I knew, you know, pretty much after the first enlistment and that's why I got out, because it was a 6-year enlistment. It's like that was not the place for me, and you know, the Marine Corps was my home. And with that being said, you're going to have dark places. So you're going to have that with family of any type, whether it's you know, in green or your blood family. So I really wouldn't, you know, reeling you in is really not an issue. We all have dark places, and that's why we talked about earlier. Some is like, you know, stress relievers, physical fitness, and that's the whole reason for this podcast, is to get that information out. It's not to always, we do talk about beer and we talk about, you know, stuff in general, but the whole idea is just to let Marines know that, you know, of all, whether it's Vietnam, Korea, Fallujah, going as far as Somalia, you know, stuff like that. They're forgotten.
I was gonna say, you know, it occurred to me today, as we're recording this, October 3rd, is Black Hawk Down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was such an important moment in military history for so many reasons. You know, tactical reasons, strategic reasons, policy reasons. But for guys like us, like, even though it was before our time, it was our time. You know what I mean? Because we grew up, you know, watching World War II movies, Vietnam movies, and things like that. And then you had the Cold War, which there wasn't really any hot wars, but between Vietnam and the Gulf War. And then the Gulf War kind of came and went really quick. Not to downplay it, because there were U.S. troops that were, you know, made the ultimate sacrifice during Gulf War I. But then when Black Hawk Down came around, that was kind of like transitioning to a new era. You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of people didn't know that even Marines were there before.
We're doing this today.
Yeah, Marines were there before. I mean, before Black Hawk Down, before all that.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and definitely blessed, you know, the Army Rangers and Delta that were there. But there were Marines there. There were Marines from 3-1 there. We've actually had an opportunity to sit down and talk to them.
That was where we got tasked with this.
And I'm going to be honest with you, for somebody who considers himself a history buff or something like that, I had no idea. I had no idea that they were already. I didn't know that Marines were there, and I know the Somalians didn't fuck with them because they knew who they were.
But there was a reason they did.
Yeah, but there was a reason.
We figured that out when we got there.
But they did fuck one not to the level of like a Black Hawk Down type scenario. Yeah. But they definitely, and the same thing in Iraq, you know it too. Is like if you see the funny vehicle with the arrow or the half diamond on it, don't shoot at it because they get out. It's not like you know the other branches that roll on through or try to suppress by fire and push through into the objective. No, we actually closed with and destroyed to corner parade.
Sergeant Major Hertz was in Somalia, and I had another platoon sergeant at one time in Somalia. So when you had that kind of, if you were fortunate enough to get that kind of leadership in the grunts, that was a whole new kind of, it wasn't a new kind of warfare, but it wasn't one that we had paid much attention to up until that point. Mm-hmm. And ironically, me being in Ireland now, I remember when I went through Mountain Instructors course in the late 90s, all the urban tactics were based off of the Brits fighting the IRA in Belfast.
Yeah.
And anything that we have after that or prior to was, as you know, Way City. So the Battle of Way.
And I mean, that really wasn't necessarily.
That's not the best doctrine, I get it.
So
yeah, but it is an example.
Kind of like, hey, find cover and kill whatever in front of you. It wasn't necessarily like, hey, stack up on me, button hook left, button hook right, fatal frontal. That was just kind of like, it was. They were in combat and it was urban. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, I prefer,
it wasn't necessarily urban combat.
I prefer a thermobaric round or D9. Yeah. D9 is always effective.
Abrams is good.
Just drop it.
Let me ask you this.
Look how we changed tactics in Iraq talking about the D9. I mean, when we realize, hey, too many people are dying because we don't know what's on the other side,
fuck a satchel,
let's
bring
just
in a
eliminate
D9.
the threat and not worry about it.
Yeah. Fuck a satchel, bring in a D9.
D9, D12.
Not to get political, but do you guys, I know over there with the Troubles and all that, do they still talk about that? Do they still, is that stuff still on the shelves, the bookshelves, still have those kind of books?
What's that?
For the Troubles.
Like
I think he specifically
Northern Ireland, yeah. You
Northern
still
Ireland.
get a lot of that.
It's not really a big topic in the Republic of Ireland.
Okay.
In Northern Ireland, I might be mistaken, but I think technically they're still in a ceasefire and have been for a long time. But it's not because they like each other.
Man,
basically it's the loyalists to the United Kingdom and the Irish, which translates to the Protestants and the Catholics.
Yeah. If you can get it, it's a great book. If not, I'll fucking send it to you. I read it when I was in the Marine Corps. It's Killing Rage by Eamon Collins.
Okay.
It's a great book. He was actually gunned down in front of his duplex or whatever because of his views and what he wrote. He was a former IRA guy, went to Sinn Féin, came back, and then said, hey, whatever. But, dude, you got to read it. It's actually a really good book, and it's an insider. He got in, then got out and said, hey, here's what's wrong with it. Yeah.
What's interesting, we're talking about books because I know a lot of Americans have some sort of Irish ancestry. I picked up this book. It's called Shadow Warriors, and it's about the Irish Army Ranger Wing, which is basically their Green Beret Special Ops guys. If you've ever read the book Chosen Soldier, which is about Special Forces Assessment and Selection, it's pretty much the same thing. But it's a good book. And then there's another one I want to get called The Fighting Irish that talks about all the battles that Irish people have been in. But that's...
Yeah, well, I actually ran my ancestry, and for the longest time I thought I was, from my parents, Scotland. Not the fact. I'm actually from the town of Leicester in England is where my family came from. So after doing the research and spending a little bit of money on it, I come to find out that I am English, and my best friend is Irish, and we're sitting across the table drinking beer, talking to another Irishman. So, and a Connor, a Murphy, and a Lassiter.
So cheers and shit.
Yeah, so cheers and shit, and let me keep your hands where I can.
At least nobody's Welsh. We can all understand each other.
It's always funny because when I meet people out in town and we get to talk and they're like, oh, you're American and blah, blah, blah. What brings you here? How do you like it? This, that, and the other. But then when they see my name, they're like, oh, who's your family? Or you must have relations here or something, right? Because James is a very common name, and Connor is a very... Of course, everybody here spells it with an O. Yeah. I spell it with an E.
I wondered about that.
But, yeah, so...
Well, like I said, two Irishmen in English, so keep your fucking hands where I can see them.
So being over there, do you actually speak Gaelic at all, or do you it's just straight
Irish? Two things about that. In Ireland, they don't call it Gaelic. They call it Irish. If you call it Gaelic, they'll get pissed off.
That's fine. I'm an American. I don't give a fuck.
It's a parasite.
Stop calling it a parasite.
My kids are learning Irish in school.
Really?
I don't know if they can speak it, but I guess they're doing whatever they need to do to get by.
Yeah.
The teachers asked, they're like, do you want your kids to learn it? And I'm like, yeah. They're not getting off easy. If it's part of their curriculum, they're going to do it. And I want them to be, well-rounded. Just like when we were in Romania, they learned Romanian. I ain't learned shit, but I make sure they learn
I barely
it.
speak English and some broken Spanish, and that's only what I
Right.
picked up when I was stationed in California. So
When people ask me how many languages I speak, I say, well, I speak Northeast, I speak Southernese, and I speak a little bit of Midwest.
I
There you
speak redneck and America.
But
So
I would argue
Well-
if you speak Midwest, you speak damn near every bit of America because I can understand almost everybody.
So, good stuff, good stuff. So, hey, man, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up from here. It's been a real pleasure. We definitely want our YouTubers and podcast listeners to. We want you to be able to plug your website. So, tell us a little bit about your podcast, your website, the link that will be posted on our at the end of the YouTube. You'll see it at the end. So, watch it all the way to the end for links that are beneficial to you. Go ahead and what you got? What you got, Benny?
okay, so my elevator pitch. I totally detoured you guys from one of your questions, but if you want to read more about my bio, it's on the website. It's wellnessforvets.info. Sometimes when I go there myself, I type in .com and I can't figure out why the site's not coming up, but it's wellnessforvets.info. I'm on Instagram at wellnessforvets. I'm on LinkedIn under James Connor. What else is there? I have a new website that's not finished yet, but it's going to be, I think it's Trinity Fitness. But that one's not important. I don't really do much with that one.
Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
But if you want to get a hold of me, if you want to talk physical fitness, if you want to talk nutrition, if you want to talk spirituality, if you want to talk body ways, if you just want to talk, if you want to learn more about some obscure subject or you're looking for a resource somewhere, if you go to wellnessforvets.info, there is a contact drop-down box. Just fill that out and shoot me an email. I do assessments for free, if people are trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives.
Like, does this look big to you kind of thing? Or,
A what?
like, does this look big to you kind of thing? Or she says it looks funny? What kind of assessment?
Well, hey, I'll entertain anything. I didn't get to tell you the story about when I had to have a conversation with my pecker the other day.
Hey,
but
these are your concluders. Go for it.
Actually,
Whatever you want
I haven't led into it yet, but I want you to take our viewers out, as you go, and one of the James Connor famous stories. Like I said before, to nauseum is you're a great storyteller. We actually, for me, I was actually talking to Murphy the other day. It's like it'd be great if he did a book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good authors that are former Marines or had prior service that really can tell a good story. And a lot of times when you get onto Facebook and you'll see something like a posting and you see that it's like the narrative is like super long, people will not read it because it's so long unless it says same as Connor on it. And then we read it, and then if you've seen the pouring from it. So if you're not working on a book or a short story or something like that, you're doing a disservice to your fans as well as to yourself.
it's on my long list of things to do.
So
I have one question before we finish up, but whatever you guys want to do in between there.
no, we'll go ahead and hit the question because I do want to hear the funny story we talked about, and it doesn't have to be the one we talked about on last night as
Okay.
far as the commonality, but it is man, that one is fucking funny. But anyway, I'll let Murph go ahead and ask his question. Go
All
ahead,
right,
Murph.
so old guy looking down from his rocking chair at Marines that are currently in service now. However you want to portray this. The guys that may be in right now watching this, what can you tell them physically and maybe mentally that's going to help them later when they get out? Because you know how we were. We would all fucking drink to excess to the last minute.
Yeah, we have a
try
listener.
to get a couple hours sleep.
We have a listener that does that. He's an ROTC.
We have a guy that's an ROTC guy locally, Ryan Getler, really good dude. We've rucked with him, and I want him. He's going into the Marine Corps. He's right now ROTC Purdue, and I just want to make sure that these guys have some kind of like, hey man, nobody ever told me this. If you could tell them what nobody ever told them, what would you tell them?
Start out a sentence with, "Hey Ryan, this is what you, this is what you
Hey
do."
Ryan, I'll preface preface this by saying I reached out to the Marine Corps Human Performance, and I'm still waiting for somebody from that place to email me back because I've emailed at least 3 different people trying to get an interview with them. But what I would tell somebody, knowing what I know now, we talk about, training like a warrior, having a warrior mindset, being warriors, but we don't train like warriors. And what I mean by that is, number one, take care of yourself. So, don't be embarrassed. Like, if you're in the fleet right now or an ROTC, go to yoga. Go do some Tai Chi. If you want to do like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or more contact martial arts, that's fine. But I happen to be a fan of the softer martial arts just because I need a little bit more balance in my life. But do all that shit that for years has always been seen and weird, because you know what? We talk about warriors. If you look at East Asia and the people that we always quote, Sun Tzu and, all this stuff, these guys weren't out doing 20-mile pack runs. They were meditating. They were contemplating their purpose in life. They were contemplating their mission. They were doing things that would make them better warriors that didn't make them combat ineffective. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, I understand the Marine Corps way, the Army way, whatever the case may be. There's certain events that you have to do. You're going to have to go on the monthly hump. You're going to have to run. You're going to have to take your physical fitness test on your own time, or if you're a squad leader, take your guys to an MWR yoga class. Take them to a body pump class. Take them to, find somebody out in town who's doing meditation and try it out. And that's really being a warrior. Being a warrior is recognizing where you need improvement, not just to keep barreling through the same old shit all the time to see who's going to fall out. So that's that.
That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you. Is there a way that we can keep you on as we sign off, and then we can continue this, just us, without?
Hell yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
We'll leave you there.
I know we got to keep it short. That's why I'm not trying to exclude anybody.
Yeah,
I'm just
absolutely.
thinking why not just fucking stay running? We're having a good conversation. We need to cut it short though.
So hit us with as we got the longer we stay in the military, we always have a funny story or quote or something like that. So go ahead and, for our viewers and listeners, go ahead and let's go ahead and wrap this interview up with a funny story. So, something on a positive note, and maybe if we get one person to smile or maybe laugh and shit their pants, that would be pretty cool.
Well, man, I'm trying to think. John, I'm not going to tell that story we told the other night, but I think that stays between the three of us for now. Maybe,
I think so, because
back.
that person has their own podcast, so I don't want it on the outside chance that, it's a small Marine Corps, huh? So one of the stories, it's not necessarily a field story, but Marines do crazy shit. And like my time out at 1st Marine Division, I loved 1st Marine Division. The sun rises and sets on the 1st Marine Division. I did time at 2nd Marine Division. I did time at MARSOC. They got nothing on 1st Marine Division. That being said, me and my buddies used to take off to Temecula to go to the Stampede. And I remember that. I
had some good times there. I had some bad times there. But one time we all came out and, I'm thinking of other stories now. God, I got a lot of stories. I'll just tell this one to call it quits. So we come out, we're all hammered. We wake up in somebody's yard. Like this guy, Billy, drove his Bronco. This Bronco he had, before you started it up, you had to get the drip pan from underneath of the truck to dump the damn transmission fluid back into the engine before you could even go anywhere. So anytime you went to somewhere, if you were going out to eat, you got to the parking lot, you had to put the drip pan to catch all the transmission fluid, pour it out of the engine and put it back into the engine.
He was paying 73% interest on this vehicle.
Yeah. So one night we're at the Stampede, we all come out and they're shit-faced, and actually, you know what? Here's my favorite story.
This is exactly what I fucking wanted.
We're changing stories.
This is fucking awesome.
All right,
Attaboy.
Westpac, 2002, 2003. This was before we got to, before we went into Iraq. I was with 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, 15th MEU stock. We go to Singapore. Me and this buddy of mine, who shall remain nameless, met up with these two chicks. So there was a pub called Muddy Murphy's Irish Pub
Oh,
in
fuck.
Singapore.
I got the matchbook, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're in there.
4 floors.
No.
I don't know what we were doing.
Oh, it's Thailand.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
raising hell about something, and somebody had some cayenne pepper and put it down on the pepper, and I was like, and it's like early in the morning too. I'm like, let's get this party started. And I like sniffed this line of cayenne pepper, and I'm like, that was a bad idea. And so we ordered drinks. Well, me and this friend of mine meet these 2 chicks. They were a couple of English gals that were backpacking across Europe.
Of course.
We ended up spending our limo with these girls. Nothing happened, but my buddy and this one chick, they were kind of falling in love. The girl that I was trying to get with was like, you know, whatever, I'm just here for the ride. Well, then one of my friends from another company shows up, and he's like hammered, and he's talking to this girl. She's like, well, I have a boyfriend, and he's like petting her hand. He's so lucky to have a girl like you. I'm like, hey, man, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, I'm trying to, like, reminding her of what's going on back home. So, we, eventually, like, the one girl that my friend was trying to hook up with, she starts getting homesick. And she's like, I just want to go home. So these girls canceled their backpacking vacation, got on a plane to go back to England. In the meantime, we're in this bar, and if you guys remember, it was called the 4 Floors of Whores. And
I told you I was right. Yeah.
there was this Texas bar in Singapore. There was a Texas bar. And we're standing up there, we're looking out the window like this as, you know, we're watching the girls get in the cab, and the one girl looks up and waves to my friend, and he waves back, and they get in the cab, and they drive away, and we're watching as the taillights, you know, fade off into the darkness, and he's got his head against the window, and he's like, man, I think I love that girl. And I'm like, yep. I smack him on the chest and say, hey, man, you want to go get some whores? And he goes, yeah, let's go. But that doesn't end there.
Love is
we
fleeting.
did.
Yep.
We did, right? And, well, the next day, the ship was pulling out of port. And our friends kept coming by, banging on the door, like, hey, man, we got to get back. You know, limo's over. And we're like, Well, we wait. The phone rings at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, hey, man, you guys are UA. And I'm like, Chris, get up. So he jumps out of bed. I'm like, we're late. And we jump in the cab. We're like, go, man, go to where the U.S. ship is. And this guy's like, like driving up on the sidewalk and all kind of craziness. And we get there, and the dock is just this long dock with a few Connex boxes and then like a no man's land. All right, so we're like bounding over, watching up through the Connex boxes because our first sergeant is standing on the gangplank waiting for us. So we're bounding over, watching. We get to the last Connex box, and we're like, fuck, man, we're caught. So we come walking up to the gangplank. First sergeant looks at us. He says, at least y'all ain't dead. And he just turns around and walks away. And our lieutenant was standing there, and he told me later on, he's like, man, I looked at Chris, and he came up, and I could tell he was remorseful. He's like, but then, and I was so mad at you guys. And he's like, but then you come up the gangplank, and you're just like, you know, smiles. And he's like, and I was like, I couldn't even be mad anymore. So then we had to go see the battalion commander. He threatened to NJP us. He's like, well, we're going to war, so you guys just go out there and lead your men on the battlefield, and we'll forget about this whole thing.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, man, once again, we definitely appreciate it. We're going to keep you on.
Right.
We're going to roll into some plugging
plugs and
some
all
closing
that.
plugs for 3rd Battalion, 1st Marine Association, and Warrior Union Foundation. Go ahead and
He could stay on. He could stay visible.
stay visible.
Yeah.
So on and
Just
so forth.
we'll do this, and you just keep quiet for a minute if you can. Have a drink, and we'll come right back to you.
If that's physically possible. So and keep your clothes on. So I'm sure we have viewers at home that would appreciate that. If everybody stay clothed. Go ahead.
Sadly, we have viewers probably that would appreciate it.
Go ahead and talk about the best knives on the planet.
The best knives on the planet. All right, I'm going to go that route. My buddy TM Hunt Custom Knives, Todd Hunt, makes some of the most badass knives on the planet. I'm going to throw them up there because this is the flagship. It obviously makes things smaller than this. Everyday carry. This is just something that would be home in any.
Great skinners. Great skinners.
Yeah. Hey, we've got a video of a dude doing that in Michigan, or actually Iowa at the time. Totally field stripping a buck with an M18. But like I said, he's a good buddy of mine. tmhuntcustomknives.com. Check him out. I'm a huge knife nut, so that's kind of my go-to. But I also carry a lot of K-Bar, a lot of Spartan. Right now, I think I got an Emerson in my pocket. I carry a lot of knives, but that's a dude. He's my brother died, but that's one of my other brothers that's still alive.
Now, pretty much, if you have a gear question, whether it's hiking, camping, hunting, fishing, anything, put it in the comment section. We pretty much we know the answer. We have everything from Go Ruck, Kelty, Osprey, Mystery Ranch, TM Hunt knives, K-Bar knives. We have and there's a phrase for that, and I'll let you figure out what that is as far as a gear.
We actually call it gear queer.
Yeah, whatever.
You can say it without getting. I mean, it's a term. It's not.
So
you're
it's
gear.
not
You're weird. You're weird because you like gear. That's what it is.
Yep. It's
in
not
the
so
book.
much. It's we're under the adage that you get what you pay for, and
Buy once, cry once.
Yep. Exactly. So we've tried everything else. We've been doing this for a while. I'll go ahead and tell you about Warrior Reunion Foundation inaugural Hump Day 2020 fundraiser. Go ahead and go to the site WRF Hump Day. That's HUMPDAY.plannin, PLANNIN below.com. Go there for all the information. It's a great cause. It raises money for the foundation, and it gets you outside. Not indoors, outside without a mask.
Where you can,
Yeah, where you can. And once again, it's a great. Go to that site. Look at some of their gear. They would appreciate it if you buy some of their gear. It's good quality gear. It sends a good message, and it's a great foundation. 3rd Battalion 1st Marine Association, huge fans of them, and partner with them as much as we can.
If you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, you've definitely seen us do our Warrior Reunion Foundation hump, and the reunion we did as well down in Texas. We were also part of the one they did in Tennessee with the Somalia Marines. So they've done some really great projects.
Exactly. And then the last website, actually not the last website, because I'm going to plug Wellness for Vets again, but is a former Marine, Jason Kyle, a former 31 Lima Marine, Jason Kyle. He owns and operates this great company called Liberty Risk. You can reach them at www.libertyrisk.com. Spell risk, RISQ.com. So it's LIBERTY. RISQ.com. Great gear, great cause, and you're definitely supporting a fellow 3-1 Marine.
And that's across the gamut on Facebook, Instagram, all that. That's his handle.
Yep, and what's most important is you're supporting a not only a Marine vet, but a 3-1 Marine, so Lima or otherwise. Again, that is, and then James's or Benny's website is Wellness for Vets, and that's www.wellnessforvets.info. If you hit .com or .org, you'll be searching forever, like the owner of the video or the owner of the website himself. So just think how much problems you're going to have. With that being said, we definitely appreciate your time, and we look forward to the next one coming up in November. Any parting thoughts from the Murph?
No, I mean, other than these badass shirts we got these as a freebie from the 3-1 Association.
Mm-hmm. They are running a raffle right now, so all
it'll be
proceeds.
over by the time they're done. It's over tonight.
It'll be over by the time you're done.
When this gets posted, it's over. But but follow them, because seriously, they do T-shirt raffles. They're usually $5 a ticket. You get a T-shirt for $5, dude. That's pretty badass. If you spend $5 and get that one ticket that won the T-shirt, awesome. If you're the silly guy that drops $20 and you didn't get the T-shirt, hey, $20 went to the 3-1 Association. That's getting guys to the reunion. That's getting guys maybe that otherwise wouldn't get a plane ticket to go see their buddies they haven't seen in forever. We don't know where that'll go, but it's got potential. They're great people. Like I said, they produce this podcast. They put up with our silliness. We've got the hats, Rogue American Apparel. That's another Marine vet down in Texas, Wes Whitlock. He throws together a lot of great gear. Everything from the gear that we work out in, I know you work out in it, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely.
So, I mean, they make a lot of great gear and cultivate a lot of camaraderie in the community. Go check them out. They're just rogueamericanapparel.com. Iron Disciples. And
Iron Disciples.
their coffees at Vader Coffee, who I'm out of right now, but I'm supposed to be getting more. He's got a conglomerate underneath him, but he's really good dude. I don't think I got anything else other than to say thanks, Benny, for showing up on this, and look forward to seeing y'all's thoughts on this when we get it posted.
All right. Yep. And its final thoughts will be, make sure you're staying safe, stay healthy, get outside when you can, and remember, your weapon is never clean unless it's Friday.